Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. And this one is for Monday, August 20th, all the way through to Sunday, August 26th of 2018. And this is another big week in the astrology. There are no eclipses and nothing is stationing or doing anything weird like that, but we do have some powerful shifts going on. We have Mercury, which is finally moving, starting to move very slowly ahead, right? This is the first few days of Mercury moving direct, and so we're getting a little bit of forward momentum going. On top of that, we have the sun shifting into the sign of Virgo, which is going to be happening on Wednesday the 22nd, so happy birthday to all of you fellow Virgos out there. I hope that you have a really wonderful solar return, especially if it's this week, and in general, obviously. And, this week there is a lot of really powerful potent positive energy, but there's also a little bit of conflict and a need for compromise. And that is actually brought about by the full moon that's happening in the sign of Pisces. It's going to be happening at 3 degrees in the sign of Pisces on Sunday the 26th. And this is a very powerful full moon because it's part of what's called a kite formation. And so at first glance, when you look at a kite formation, it looks like it's going to be something that's very harmonious, very positive, right? Because it's a grand trine that has an opposition in it. In this case, it's going to be the moon and the sun are the sort of opposition of the kite formation. And then those two other planets in the trine are making sextiles to one of the planets in the opposition. And I'm going to show you the chart for the moon in just a second so you can get what I'm looking at and what we mean here. But when we're talking about a kite formation, even though it at first glance appears to be something that's really easy, it actually is a signifier of crisis and conflict and a need to compromise. And if you're not able to compromise something, especially with the full moon, right, we're talking about the opposition between the sun and the moon. And so this is a compromise that needs to be made between the emotions, which are the moon, and the heart, which is, the sun, right? It's the heart, it's the sort of core of your identity. It's the soul's expression in physical reality. And so there's a need to compromise between these two energies that shows up with this kite formation. If you're not able to come back into balance and make that compromise, which is always part of a full moon, it's just more difficult to do it when there's a kite formation. But if you're not able to come into that point of compromise, you're not going to unlock the potential of all those really harmonious, really beautiful trines and sextiles, which are positive aspects, which can allow energy to flow very easily and in really good harmony, right? And so when you have a trine, it indicates that two planetary energies are working in harmony with one another very easily without you having to really do anything to cause that to happen. And with sextiles, it's a similar energy, it's harmonious, but you have to actually do something and engage in the energy in order to activate that sextile, right? And so, but both of them are very beneficial and very positive. It indicates that there's not going to be a lot of resistance or difficulty. When we have a formation like a kite formation where there's that opposition, the opposition becomes much more prominent. And if you're not able to work through that opposition, you don't unlock the benefits of the kite formation. And a lot of that information came from my teacher, Lynn Coiner. She wrote this really great article about kite formations and kite patterns and how they affect people on a global and individual scale. And I found this to be quite accurate, especially in working with clients where they have all these really beautiful aspects. You would think that they're going to, have a really easy time. But the opposition in that kite formation seems to be much more prominent. And my other teacher, Robert Phoenix, who comes on this channel regularly, he taught me that, when you see a lot of trines and sextiles and harmonious aspects in the birth chart, the less harmonious, challenging aspects, even if there's only one square, that one square becomes very difficult and much more predominant and much more difficult to overcome than somebody who has a bunch of squares and different things in their chart. And so this is the case also with the kite formation. And it's not just Lynn Coiner or Robert Phoenix or, whoever else that has come up with this. I mean, there are astrologers that call kite formations dragons instead of kites because they do indicate a very significant challenging energy. A lot of forward momentum takes place under these kite formations. And Lynn Coiner has actually found them to be associated with natural and man-made disasters and large-scale global events that tend to occur when we're under a kite formation, especially when that kite formation is following or preceding some sort of eclipse cycle, right? And so this is where we're at right now. We're technically still in eclipse season because the the start of this lunar cycle with the new moon was actually a solar eclipse in the sign of Leo. And so this is the full moon that is following that solar eclipse, the culmination point of this lunar cycle that is still technically an eclipse cycle. And we have this really intense kite formation. And it's a very strong, very close kite formation. This isn't like a loose kite or anything like that, where it's like, okay, it's, you know, the orb is quite wide. This is pretty precise. And so I would say that this could be an energy that could potentially bring some sort of catastrophe or something like that, not to scare anyone. I mean, in this day and age, every other day there's another disaster or, you know, global event that's going on, or something crazy. But, you know, and especially with the eclipse season, but I would say that the manifestation of the difficulties of eclipse season on a global scale will probably start to manifest, I would say this week, if anything, or this weekend, if they do, right? And so there is a way to unlock this potential, and there is a way to utilize this in a very positive way in your birth chart. You just have to know how to work with the energy. And once you learn how to work with the energy, which we're going to talk about as we go through this pattern by sign, then you can unlock the potential of those trines and sextiles, and things will work quite easily to your benefit. In many, many areas of life, things can start to come together and merge and synchronize. It's just a matter of getting over that opposition. Another thing that Lynn Coiner teaches about the opposition that I think is quite interesting is that, you know, traditionally the opposition indicates an opposing energy, an opposing force, right? And so a lot of times people with oppositions, they come into opposition where there are events and energies and people and situations that oppose whatever it is that they're trying to manifest. And what Lynn Coiner actually has found, and I think is quite interesting because I think this is actually quite accurate, is that the opposition represents the energy we project onto other people. And so it's actually us that's providing that opposition instead of these outside externalized sorts of energies, events, and situations and people and all of that that we perceive it as. And so looking at that, I think in terms of this kite formation, it could be quite interesting as well. And so anyway, so that's kind of what's going on with the kite. That's going to be on the full moon in Pisces, which is happening at 4:56 a.m. Pacific time here in the United States. And it's going to be a powerful eclipse, right? And the Pisces full moon is always a time where we're coming back into balance from having to focusing more on the practical, the external, the rational, the logical, and linear, and focusing more on what's going on the inside, right? What's going on more subjectively, focusing on creativity, spirituality, psychic impressions, intuition, all of these types of sort of Piscean energies, creativity, right? Dreams, merging our energy with the energies beyond this realm, beyond this reality, and understanding that everything is connected. It's a very compassionate and loving energy when you have a full moon in Pisces, and it's almost magical because things can manifest in very strange ways because it's a very sort of ethereal, otherworldly energy where your thoughts, your projections, what you put out there comes back to you through the energy that surrounds you in just very strange and synchronous ways. I noticed that very interesting things occur when the full moon's in Pisces, or when there's a lot of really strong Pisces energy, especially with the moon. And so anyway, I'm going to share my screen real quick because I want to show you this kite formation and what I'm actually talking about here. And so this is the kite formation that's happening for this full moon. As you can see here, you have the moon, which is conjunct trans Pluto, which has to do with perfectionism and holding on to a specific way of doing things that is, it has to do with perfectionistic. Obviously in the sign of Virgo, that's going to be amplified. But when we look at the sun being in the sign of Virgo, our focus is going to be more on the practical, the logical, the linear, what's going on in physical reality. Both of these energies of the sun and moon have to do with service, right? Because the sun in the sign of Virgo is how we can act in service of others in a very practical, grounded way. And then we have the moon, which is in Pisces, which is very compassionate, loving, charitable, almost to the point of martyrdom though. So it's about merging what's practical, making sure, and Virgo always takes care of itself first. Virgo is all about self-care and making sure that it has its own ducks in a row before it takes care of other people. It's not just, it's not a self-sacrificing sign, whereas Pisces is the exact opposite. They'll make sure everybody else's needs are met before they meet their own needs when you're looking at the energy of Pisces in general and the moon in Pisces. And so it is a deeply loving, compassionate energy. The best manifestation of this energy is to do something in service of other people. That would be a really great way to sort of honor the energy of this full moon. But as you can see here, we have the sun and moon both at 3 degrees, 12 minutes in the sign of Virgo and Pisces. And then we have this kite forming with Uranus and Saturn, right? Saturn right now is retrograde. It's at 2 degrees, 36 minutes. And then we have Uranus, which is at 2 degrees, 25 minutes in retrograde. And it's actually going to come to its closest point of being in an actual trine, Uranus and Saturn, on September 6th. So in just a couple of weeks when Saturn stations to actually go direct, that's going to be the closest it'll come. It won't be exact to the minute, but it'll be almost, and it'll be an energy that's felt. And so this is a very precise trine. It's like less than a degree apart in terms of the orb with the sun and moon, which are, you know, at 3 degrees, 12 minutes. We have these Saturn and Uranus at 2 degrees, 25 and 2 degrees, 38. And so this is a really intense formation, and it's in earth, of course, and then there's also that water aspect. So there's a lot of earth energy. So it's a lot of focus on doing what's grounded, what's practical, what's logical, what's reasonable. But there's also a need to incorporate the non-physical, the non-linear, the intuition, the feeling sort of aspects of this full moon. So feeling your way through to figure out what's actually the right path to take, that sort of energy. But the compromise here is between Virgo and obviously Pisces, and it's the compromise is between the heart, which is the sun, right, and wanting to do things very physically in a very practical, sort of logical, linear way, but also wanting to incorporate what your intuition is telling you, what your emotions are telling you, incorporating this love, this compassion, these rose-colored glasses, and incorporating a little bit of idealism, right? Because the other thing we're talking about when we're talking about a full moon in the sign of Pisces is merging the energies of what's real with what's ideal, right? We have Virgo, which is the realist, and we have Pisces, which is the idealist. And so, you know, not being so focused on what's logical and rational, but also not being so overly focused on the ideal and on your fantasies of the way things should be, which is the moon in Pisces, right? And being able to merge those two energies so you can have, you can manifest things that are more fantastical, idealistic, all of that, but doing so in a grounded and practical way, right? And that's kind of the merging of those two energies. But anyway, on a global scale, I would say that this is, you know, a crisis that has to do with earth and water, and it's Pisces and Virgo. So that could be anything from like farming or land use, fracking, drilling oil, right? The oceans could be involved in something along these lines. So it's very much, it seems like more of a natural occurrence if there is some sort of crisis that comes up, or a man-made occurrence that affects and impacts our environment, either, you know, through the ocean or the land or both. I would say it may be something to do with oil because that's Pisces, right? Or the ocean especially. And we've already been having trouble, I know, in the Gulf of Mexico with millions of sea creatures like fish and dolphins and just washing up dead on shore because of the red tide and the green tide or whatever. I don't know if that's a manifestation of this, but I feel like there's, you know, this could bring something. So anyway, this is not a global sort of interpretation. I'm just I just thought it'd be interesting to look at, right? Because I mean, this does tend to coincide with major events. There are quite a few, including like the beginning of World War I, that coincide with these types of aspects. Not to say that that's what we're going into, or it could be something economic, right? Because we're talking about Uranus and Taurus as part of this, and we're talking about Virgo. We're talking about the Earth sign, so it has to do with resources. So that could be part of it as well. But anyway, this is going to be impacting each sign independently and in a different way. It's our first full moon that's not an eclipse in quite a while, or our first, like, you know, really prominent aspect in the lunar cycle that's not involved in an eclipse. It is the culmination of this eclipse cycle that began with the new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Leo, but this is not an eclipse itself, so that's a little bit different. So it might not be anything super chaotic on an individual level, especially if you're able to make that compromise that we're about to talk about. And before I get into the astrology by sign, I just want to remind everyone that I'm doing a really in-depth webinar about astrocartography, which is relocation astrology, which is the astrology of place. It shows you sort of where the best places are in the entire world for you to live or to travel and to thrive, where the best places are to make the most money, to establish a really solid foundation for your career, to have a really good family life, to have like more friends, more money, whatever it is that you're sort of interested in manifesting, relationships and things like that. You can enhance that energy through learning how to do relocation. And so I'm teaching a really in-depth webinar about that. I'm even going to be talking about the timing of a big move and what places in terms of like the topography and your surroundings, the environment that you should be in to be the most satisfied in your home life. And so that's going to be taking place live on September 15th. The link to subscribe or to register is in the description below. Also subscribe to my channel, but the link is in the description below. And if you're not able to attend it live, I still recommend signing up early because you'll get $10 off if you register now versus after the fact. And so that's my little spiel about that. And so now I'm going to get into the forecast for all 12 signs beginning with Aries. Okay, for Aries and for Aries rising, and always listen to your rising sign first and your sun sign is secondary if you know your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign because you don't have your exact time of birth or you're not super familiar with astrology, that's okay. Listening for your sun sign will still give you a lot of information. That's really important. I'm not a big moon sign person with these generalized forecasts, but if that's what you want to do, go ahead and listen to that as well. And we will, of course, be starting with Aries. And so for Aries and Aries rising, this one is pretty straightforward in terms of the compromise because you have the moon in Pisces in your 12th house, which is the Pisces house. And the 12th house represents solitude, seclusion, spiritual practice, taking time away from the world. It's where you go to sort of rest and reset and come back to yourself on a more internal subjective level, to connect with those higher realms, those other energies. And, the sun is in the sign of Virgo in your 6th house, which is the Virgo house, which is the house of busyness. It's the house of health. It's the house of daily routine activities. It's the house of hard work and service and your connection with your coworkers and people that work for you, like employees and things like that as well. And so there's a need to come back into balance between focusing every day in and day out on what's real, what's practical. Maybe you've been overemphasizing your health. Maybe you've been very busy the past week and focusing very much on just working really hard and the day-to-day grind. And so this full moon requires that you integrate some of the energy of Pisces, right? Which is your intuition, your creativity. This is a great weekend for you to spend some time in solitude and in seclusion, spending time away from the world, reflecting, journaling, meditating, doing something creative like painting or photography or whatever it is that you're into. But taking time away from the day-to-day grind is going to be very important, but also not to the extent where you're escaping from reality, right? Because there needs to be some sort of compromise. So it might be that you want to just like spend the entire weekend all on your own in solitude, just like maybe escaping even through fantasy or through film, right? That's Pisces. So maybe watching movies just on your couch, watching Netflix or something like that. And there are some sort of tasks or responsibilities that, this Virgo sun energy is causing you to need to take care of. And so you can't just completely escape from reality. And especially if the escapism is through like drugs, alcohol, things that are a little bit more detrimental, you need to be a little bit more realistic and you need to incorporate some of these sort of real activities that you need to do. Maybe the balance here for you in particular would be to start incorporating things that allow you to take out and to separate yourself from the world and from the daily grind into your daily routine, right? So some sort of spiritual or meditation practice, some sort of creative outlet that you can incorporate into your day-to-day life. That would be probably the best way to merge and to integrate these two energies of the sun and moon here. This could also be the culmination point that you're coming into with some sort of creative project that was maybe started or seeded a long time ago, or maybe it was started or seeded just a couple weeks ago, right, with that new moon that happened. But in either case, there's some sort of culmination point involving your spirituality, your creativity, dreams, impressions, psychic abilities, your connection to other realms, other worlds, compassion, charity work, all of these things. This would be a great energy for doing something that's very charitable, where you're giving back to other people, but not in a way that's self-sacrificial, right? Incorporating that Virgo energy where you're taking care of yourself first, making sure that your needs are met, and then giving back, and doing something that's very loving and compassionate and connected that can help and assist other people, especially maybe in 12th house institutions like hospitals or retirement homes, or monasteries, ashrams, spiritual retreat centers, prisons even. Like, these are all 12th house institutions that you could sort of do something with that energy if that's something that you're inclined to do. Obviously, this is a very generalized forecast, and not everyone's going to want to go and volunteer at a hospital or a retirement center this weekend. But you could, and it would be a good use of this energy. The other things that are going on here, so if you are able to integrate these two energies, you're unlocking a lot of really important potential in your earth houses, which have to do with your career and your public reputation. And so in order to find the career growth and expansion, the changes in your money, your resources, the way that you create resources, the independence that you're craving in terms of your finances and your financial success, and also the solid foundation that you're trying to create for yourself when it comes to your career and public reputation, that might be a little slow going at first, but it'll pick up speed, especially after the first couple of years. But you're having this process right now of Saturn in your 10th house, which is causing you to need to build something, let go of old responsibilities that are preventing you from moving forward or that are too burdensome, and to create something new for yourself in this area, to create a new foundation for yourself. And this is going to be helping you, this grand trine energy, to do that, but only if you can merge also the energy of compassion, love, charity, creativity, intuition, all of that into your plans and goals moving forward. All right, for Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus rising, this energy is happening in your 11th and your 5th house. And so the sun in the 5th house is compelling you to focus on the things that you love to do, your own passions, your own creativity, the things that you do because you love to do it or because your inner child wants it or something along those lines, right? This is also the house that rules children. And so it could be that you have a lot of energy focusing on your children or on play, or just on the things that you love, right? Creating from the heart, doing things that are authentic to you. Romance could be part of it as well. But there's a need to integrate the needs of other people, the hive mind, the friends, right? And so it could be that you've been focusing a lot on your own creative passions, your own self-interest, the things that you love to do. And maybe, now it's time to focus a little bit more energy on your friendships, your networks, groups of people, especially groups of people that are very creative, incorporating maybe some sort of spiritual network or group where you can sort of collaborate and merge your energy with the energy of other people to get new and exciting, fresh ideas, but doing so without losing sight of your own heart, your own authenticity, through that process. Merging the energy of romance with friends too. So maybe going on like a double date or something like that, or bringing your, love interest out with your friends or something along those lines. That could be something that you're interested in doing as well. But in general, this is a really great energy for connecting with friends and with groups of people, and also incorporating your passions. So maybe taking your friends to do something that you love to do, showing them what you like, right? Instead of always doing what they want to do and martyring yourself for their interests, show them your interests. That could be part of it as well. The trine activation and the good energy that's being activated here in these earth signs, the potential will become unlocked if you're able to merge these two energies in one way or another, right? So thinking about your own interests and how you can put that out into the world so groups of people can consume it or integrate it or something along those lines. That could be part of it as well, because the 5th house is what you do because you love to do it. The 11th house is how you share that with other people. And then looking at this grand trine energy, it's in your first, 9th and 5th house. And so these are all the houses of your beliefs, your personality, your persona, the way that you show up in the world. Right now you have Uranus transiting your sign, which is you making a lot of changes to your identity out in the world, to your persona, your personality. This is restructuring pretty much your entire life at some point when Uranus hits your ascendant, especially if you have Taurus, sun, moon rising around 2 degrees. So I would say anywhere from like 0 to 5 degrees. You're going to be feeling this energy pretty strongly, and it can be a very beneficial, positive energy. You have Saturn transiting your 9th house, which is causing you to restructure your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. It's sort of a sobering energy where maybe you have to get a little bit more realistic when it comes to your belief systems, or you're, learning something new, taking on some sort of higher education, or learning how to become a teacher yourself. But whatever it is that you're doing in the way of learning and restructuring your belief systems, your moral code or your ethics, that's going to help you to make very positive and lasting changes to all areas of your life, with Uranus being in Taurus, and this is being activated by the sun. And so you need to consider what you love and how you want to incorporate that into your identity moving forward. And you can unlock a lot of potential in those areas through the integration of these two energies with the full moon this weekend. All right, and for Gemini and Gemini rising, this full moon is happening in your 10th house of career, public reputation, what it is that you put out there into the world. And so the sun is in your 4th house of the home and family. And so the sun is wanting you to focus on the practical aspects of the home and family, your day-to-day chores and routines, laundry, housework, minor repairs, cleaning, organizing, all of those types of things, focusing on your family, focusing on your children. Maybe there's something that you need to do in order to get your house in order. But now, there's a need to come back into balance between your home life, your family, and also your career, your public reputation, what it is that you're doing out there in the world, and to do so in a way that's both creative but practical. So not just, with Pisces on the IC or on the midheaven, there's sort of a tendency to have a lot of confusion about what it is that you want to be doing out there in the world, especially early on in life. And Virgo in the opposition provides a very grounded, practical, and realistic energy to that area. So you might be able to come into some sort of balance or have some sort of insight as to how you can take your creative endeavors, the things that you love to do that are a little bit more spiritual, ethereal, non-linear, and turn them into something very logical, practical, and grounded, where you can show up in service to help other people. The energy of this grand trine that you can unlock has to do with your inner world. These are all the hidden houses, your 4th, 8th, and 12th. And so these are the water houses. This has to do with your inner emotional experience. There are a lot of changes going on right now in terms of your inner world, your spirituality, your spiritual practices. Uranus transiting the 12th house a lot of times indicates that you might be starting to study maybe more unusual spiritual practices, and maybe you're doing so in a way that's hidden away from the world, and that's completely okay. But incorporating that, into your home life, your family life, maybe sharing some of that with your family, that could be something that could be enabled. You could have really intense, really strong sort of prophetic dreams, unusual dreams, those types of things. The energy of Saturn through your 8th house is a process of restructuring your life in a way that allows you to become more empowered. So it's dealing with your deepest fears and insecurities, and it's dealing with all the institutions, regulations, rules, and even the boundaries that you've created for yourself that leave you feeling disempowered. And so you can make those changes a lot more easily this week if you're sort of integrating those two energies, merging the energy of the home and family in a way that brings you back into balance. If you do that, you unlock the benefits of the trine, which are, deeply creative, deep healing sort of aspects. And so you can make a lot of positive changes this week. For Cancer and for Cancer rising, this full moon is happening in your 9th house of travel, beliefs. It's your ideas that sort of frame this reality, your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, big picture perspective on reality. It's also higher education, higher learning. It's things like foreign travel, especially with Pisces, because Pisces also has sort of an energy that's associated with foreign countries, especially when you're going to a foreign country for some sort of spiritual seeking, or a country that's completely foreign to you, like in terms of the culture, where it's completely opposite of what you're used to, that type of thing, where it's a little bit more of a culture shock. But anyway, so you have the sun, which is in the 3rd house, which is learning practical skills, it's language, it's communication. And so maybe, there's an energy here where you need to bring things back into perspective to see the bigger picture in life, instead of focusing so much on the details, the day-to-day learning, beliefs, thoughts, communication, and integrating that bigger picture, that broader perspective, which for you is a little bit more ethereal, a little bit more spiritual, a little bit more mystical. And so looking at life through this lens of mysticism, synchronicity, looking at what's going on beyond the veil, behind the scenes, and integrating that perspective into your day-to-day thoughts and communications, your day-to-day reality, right? And so that could be part of it as well. This could also be something having to do with foreign travel. It could be that you've been sticking close to home and there's an energy where there's a lot to do in your home environment. So maybe, you haven't branched out recently. And so this could stimulate the desire to travel, to go to a foreign country, to get out there, to do something more adventurous during this time. The energy that can be unlocked for you is in these earth signs, which all has to do with relationships. And so you have Saturn transiting your 7th house right now, which is bringing limitations, restrictions, burdens in relationships. It's causing you to unload and let go of old sort of patterns in relationships, or old relationships in general, that feel more burdensome than what they're worth, where you feel restricted and limited by these relationships, as opposed to feeling good and free and, all of that. But Saturn in the 7th house can also bring really beautiful, committed, long-term relationships, romantic and otherwise. And so this is an energy that can unlock the potential for you to bring really new, really exciting friendships with people that you normally wouldn't connect with. So connecting with unusual groups of people that are outside of your norm, and taking those friendships and turning them into really lasting, long-term friendships or close relationships that are going to stand the test of time. This is also a great energy for unlocking potential for you in terms of communication. There's a lot of energy around communication for you this month with the sun moving into Virgo. And so this could unlock a lot of really great potential for you in these areas of connecting with other people, right? Really great, beautiful connections that come in sort of suddenly and stand the test of time and last for quite a while, especially if you have your sun, moon rising at anywhere around 2 degrees in the sign of Cancer. So I would say anywhere from 0 to 5 degrees, you have a lot more potential there for that to happen. Okay. And then for Leo and for Leo rising, this energy is happening in your 2nd and your 8th house. And so the full moon is happening in your 8th house. And so there's a need to come back into balance between focusing on your own money, your own resources, the way that you sort of plan and organize your finances, budgets, those types of things. Because when you have Virgo as the ruler of the 2nd house, you're usually, even though you're a Leo, right, or a Leo rising especially, you could be very frugal, you could be very good with your money, very good at organizing and planning your resources and all of that. But there is a need to come back into balance between focusing on, the physical, focusing on the day-to-day grind in order to create resources for yourself, right? That's also part of that 2nd house energy. And focusing a little bit more energy on the deeper work, the inner work, right? Going inward, looking at the deep emotional attachments that maybe you have to certain objects or resources in your own life, right? Because these are material possessions we're talking about here in the 2nd house. And the 8th house is the house of what's not physical, not your own. Also, this is, looking at different, I would say, emotional patterns, or especially fear-based emotional patterns that are preventing you from being fully empowered and enjoying your resources, right? So having to sort of look at that to release some energy in order to come back into balance in those areas. Also being okay with getting help from the outside. That could be a difficult thing when you have Virgo on the 2nd house cusp. So looking at maybe joint finances, money coming from the outside, accepting a loan, accepting some sort of inheritance or insurance money or something that could come from the outside that could help you and give you a boost and give you a lift. So coming back into balance and knowing that you don't have to do it all yourself, which is a tendency with Virgo on the 2nd house cusp, and that you can allow others to help you, right? And that doesn't mean that you're necessarily obligated to them or anything like that, especially if they're doing it for a reason that's like very altruistic and very caring, which is the nature of Pisces. So it could be that somebody wants to help you out with something. It could also just be needing to detach yourself from focusing too much on your material possessions, right? So learning the art of non-attachment to the physical. And if you're able to integrate these two energies, which has to do with, the physical material world versus the deep psychological archetypal world, then you can unlock the potential of this really beautiful grand trine, which is in the earth signs and in the earth houses for you. And so this is a lot of potential for positive change. You've probably been working really hard on a day-to-day basis in terms of your, work schedule, your career. It could feel like you're pushing up against the wall, like doing all these things and seeing very little progress, right? Because Saturn in the 6th house is a lot of work and not a lot of reward at the beginning. It's delayed gratification from the work that you're putting out there in terms of trying to manifest something in terms of your career goals. You also have Uranus on the IC, which wants more freedom when it comes to your career. It wants to change something. It wants to do something more independently. So there's some sort of change coming up, especially if your midheaven is around that second degree in Taurus. You can make these changes. So the slow and steady efforts that you're taking in order to make these changes can start to pay off a lot more easily once you unlock the potential of this grand trine through coming back into balance, right, in the way that we just talked about with the 2nd and the 8th house. All right. So for Virgo and for Virgo rising, this is happening in your 1st and your 7th house. So this is all about coming back into balance between your own self-interest and the needs of other people in relationship. Needing to make some sort of compromise in your relationships in order to move forward and to integrate these two energies. And so it's about compromising with other people, either in a romantic partnership, friendship, business partnerships, contracts, all of these types of things where your own needs are being met first, but you're also integrating those needs of the other people. You're integrating that compassion, that love. This could also be you wanting to escape through relationships. So when you have Pisces on the 7th house cusp, Pisces as the descendant, there's a tendency to, first off, wear rose-colored glasses in relationships. So you only kind of see what you want to see when it comes to relationships. But there's also an energy of sort of martyring yourself for relationships or escaping reality through relationships. So this sort of tendency to be prone to escapism, where you're escaping your own needs and responsibilities through focusing on the other. And so there's a need to come back and to integrate these two energies where you're focusing on your own needs, but you're integrating the needs of other people. And there could very literally be a compromise that you need to make in a relationship in order to unlock the potential of this grand trine, which is happening in all of your fun houses, right? It's the house of adventure, which is the 9th house, the house of learning through experience, and then the 5th house, which is the house of play. It's the house of romance. It's the things that you love to do. And so Saturn right now is transiting your 5th house, which can make romance feel like a lot more work. It can also make play feel like a lot more work. So it's harder for you to find time to enjoy yourself, to engage in activities that you find fun, like your hobbies and your interests. To engage in play can bring difficulty with children and restrictions and limitations in your ability to spend time with your children, maybe because you're busy working really hard or something like that. It could even be that you need to make a compromise, with your partner or with, the other parent or something like that if you're divorced and you do have children, in order to access, your children and to have more fun with them and to be able to see them a little bit more, right? That could be part of it too for specific people. But this grand trine energy that's being unlocked here would be in your 9th house, your 5th house. So this is you, first off, taking Saturn in your 5th house. So that's taking your hobbies and the things that you love to do because you love to do them, and turning it into like a career, even something that's practical. So that could be, starting your own business or doing something very grounded and very practical, working really hard to take what you love and turn it into something like a career or a work or a job. In the 9th house, this is an energy of your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. This could be you wanting to get out there, to explore, to adventure, to have more freedom, to travel, all of that type of stuff. And so you could be integrating these energies. This is also a change to your identity out in the world that's taking place right now very easily and very gradually through a change in your belief systems. And this is a positive type of change. It's going to feel very liberating for you. And so whatever it is that you're doing here in the 5th house in terms of establishing a foundation for yourself with your hobbies, your interests, your children, the things that you love to do, romance, it's going to pay off through changes and benefits in your belief systems, right? And it's changes in your ability to have more freedom, to adventure, to travel the world. And the changes in your belief systems are benefiting your identity, right? And the way that you show up in the world, so you can feel more confident and liberated, and you can have more freedom, individual and personal freedom. Which gives you, so it's like a cycle, right? We're talking about the grand trine here. So that's the energy for Virgo and for Virgo rising. It's going to be a need to compromise in relationship. So for Libra and Libra rising, the sun in Virgo is in your 12th house. So you're going through this period of time right now where your focus is a little bit more inward with the sun in the 12th house. You just started this week, right? It starts on Wednesday. So as you're watching this, the sun is still in your 11th house if you're watching it right as it's published. And so the focus has been on networking with the right people, connecting with groups of people, spending time with your friends, getting out there and being with others. That's kind of the energy of the sun transiting the 11th house. You might hear from your friends more. You might spend more time engaging, with friendships and getting out into the world and, just spending time with the people that you enjoy spending time with. When the sun moves into the 12th house, it's more like spending more time in solitude and contemplation. So you're taking time away from the world, but usually in a way that's very practical when it's Virgo. So it's like your spiritual practices are very logical and practical and organized and a little bit more down to earth. Like there's a physical practice involved usually or something along those lines. But there is a need to sort of bring yourself away from the world when you have the sun in the sign of Virgo. With the moon transiting Pisces in your 6th house, there's a need to kind of come back into balance between working really hard and what it is that you're doing for your work and spending time more in solitude and seclusion. So it's merging the practical with the, I guess, more impractical, the practical with the fantastical, right? And looking at your ideals when it comes to your day-to-day work experience, when it comes to your your health and, all these health routines, your day-to-day routines, your relationship with your coworkers. This could also be you having some sort of culmination point that's coming to fruition when it comes to the work that you've been doing out in the world. And because of this, there's a need to sort of take time out because you've been working, really hard trying to manifest something in terms of your work or your health or, maybe hiring new workers or something along those lines where you've been a little bit busy and you need to reintegrate your spiritual practice. You need to take time out of the world. You need to take time for some sort of physical retreat from the world, that type of thing. But merging these two energies where you're coming back into balance between your inner and outer world, the practical day-to-day grind, and what's going on subconsciously, creatively, and behind the scenes, that's going to unlock a lot of potential in your hidden houses, which are the 4th, 8th, and 12th house. And so that's going to bring a lot of positive change and manifestation in terms of Uranus in your 8th house, which is bringing changes to your finances, especially through investments, through letting go of old restrictive patterns that are preventing you from the financial growth that you want. So anything that's limiting you in terms of your freedom with your finances, especially, which of course in the 8th house, of course that has to do with debt, right? So if you are in debt, this could be you working really hard to get out of debt so you can feel more empowered moving forward. With Uranus transiting the 8th house, this is you going through sort of surprising experiences that bring up your deep-seated fears and insecurities up to the surface so you can look at them, work through them, release them, and feel much more empowered moving forward because they no longer have a hold on you, right? So when you're operating from a place of fear, you're not necessarily empowered to make the best decisions, right? These fears have power over you. And so this is you disempowering your fears, your anxieties, past traumas, any old sort of stuck emotional or psychological patterns that might be brought up. But in this case right now, it can be brought up in a way that's very easy. It could be healing through the family lineage or the ancestral sort of lineage. This could bring a lot of great benefits in terms of emotional healing, psychological healing, healing again through the family, subconscious sorts of healing processes that could come about right now. And also this is a great time for creativity and creative self-expression. So that's what's going on for Libra. So you can unlock those potentials by coming back into balance a little bit between work and solitude. Okay, so for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, this is happening in your 11th and your 5th house. And so the sun in Virgo is in your 11th house, which the focus is on groups of people, the internet, social networking, social media, humanitarian types of pursuits. So sometimes it can be associated with like charity organizations or clubs. But the energy here is focused on the needs of other people, right? It's focused on showing up in service to help your friends, showing up in service to help other people. Also, it could just be focusing on spending time with your friends or, networking or something along those lines. With the full moon in Pisces, this is you needing to focus more on your creativity. So your creative self-expression, especially in the sign of Pisces, right? Maybe the things that you love to do are things that are very spiritual, that are very sort of woo-woo, that are non-logical, non-linear. Maybe you in your free time, you like to paint or, play with tarot cards or whatever it is that you're doing, right? Not that it's a game, but doing things that you do because it's fun, your hobbies, your interests. So there's a need to come back into balance between focusing on the needs of your friends and your social networks, putting stuff out there for public consumption, focusing on even social media. So maybe it's time to sort of get off of Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and to focus more on what you love to do, your heart, right? And unlocking your intuitive and creative potential through that. So there's a need to merge your own needs, your own creative self-expression with whatever it is that you're doing involving groups of people, your friendships. And so for Scorpio, the potential that you're unlocking is going to be in the houses of relationships. And so if you're able to come back into balance in those areas and to have your own needs met and to focus on the things that you love to do, your inner child, creativity and play, in addition to trying to get out there, trying to reach more people, trying to connect with your friends, then and connecting in both of those, right? You can take your friends to do something that you love to do, or this could be the culmination point of some sort of creative project or spiritual endeavor that you started with a long time ago. Or it could be that you need to come back into balance between focusing on your children and your friends. Maybe you've been focusing too much on one area or the other. In either situation, you're unlocking the potential here in your houses that have to do with relationships. And so this can unlock really positive changes in your relationships. Surprising new partnerships can show up as a result of unlocking this potential, really surprising connections with people that you wouldn't normally spend time with. It could be that there's some sort of communication project that you've been working on, and also with Saturn and Capricorn, for Scorpios, a lot of the communication that you'll be having and that you've probably been having, but you will continue to have this type of communication for the next couple of years, is going to be surrounding work, right? It's very serious and very somber, and it's already been kind of that way with Pluto in the third house. But a lot of the work you've been doing around communication, marketing, building community, and maybe some of the limitations and restrictions that you felt in terms of communication, because a lot of the communication that you're getting is work-related or it's burdensome in some sort of way. This can actually pay off in some sort of way through a new connection, either a business partnership or a friendship more likely, or even a new relationship that comes in that's romantic or something like that, that comes in maybe through meeting up with your friend groups this weekend or something. I mean, that's in an extreme case, but it is a potential there. But the potential that's being unlocked is for really positive new relationships, long-lasting relationships too. Any new relationships, partnerships, friendships that come up over the course of this weekend especially, and into next week, are going to probably be long-lasting, because that's the nature of having Saturn and this really nice trine with Uranus on your descendant, which rules relationships. And forming that grand trine with the sun in your 11th house, which is friendships and groups of people. So this is a really great time for you to connect with groups of people, to make new friendships and new connections, continue to work on whatever it is you're working on in terms of learning, communication, marketing, all those types of things. And, really good new positive developments and relationships can come as a result. All right, for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. For you, you're having the sun in your 10th house of career. And so you could have a lot of focus right now on career development, on what it is that you're doing out in the world, on your public reputation. There's a need to come back into balance between what it is that you're doing out there, out in the world to develop your career, and on your home and your family life. This grand trine is in all of your earth houses, which has to do with career, with the way that you make money, with your day-to-day work experience. There could be some changes that you're trying to make to your day-to-day work experience, because the daily grind, the habitual nature of the work that you're doing, it's become too stuck, too stagnant. You want more freedom and more excitement in your daily work experience. You want more recognition for your skills, your talents out in the world. And also, with Saturn and Capricorn, you're working really hard to create a solid foundation for yourself in terms of your resources moving forward. In order to integrate all of these energies in a very positive way, where you can make positive, long-lasting changes to your day-to-day work life that are exciting, and you can get that recognition, and you can funnel more money into your second house through your hard work, you need to come back into balance and spend more time focusing on your home and your family. So if you've been out in the world working and, toiling away, this is the time when you need to come back into balance, take into account the needs of your family, spend time in solitude, comfort, relaxing, spend time on the couch watching Netflix or doing something creative at home. This is a place where when you have Pisces on the IC, or, the cusp of the fourth house, it's like your home is your sanctuary, right? That's where you go to sort of escape from the world. And so this is a weekend where you might need to integrate that energy, but also not lose sight of your bigger goals and plans, right? Because that's the sun. So you need to merge those two areas, maybe even working from home or creating some sort of system where you can work from home a little bit more so you can have a better balance between your work and home life, because there's something here that maybe came off balance. And so you need to compromise. You can't have everything on both ends. So you need to let go of a little bit of, the work stuff, or maybe let go a little bit of the family stuff and come back into alignment where you're better able to focus on both areas. And that's going to unlock a lot of potential for really positive developments and growth and change in terms of your career, finances, public reputation, day-to-day work experience. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this full moon is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. The sun is in your 9th house, which has to do with foreign travel, your belief systems, the bigger picture, the broader perspective on life. Pisces on the 3rd house cusp is a very intuitive way of thinking about things and a very creative way of thinking about things. But Virgo in the 9th house, the big picture stuff is you're a little bit more practical and pragmatic about it. But there's a need to come back into balance between the broader perspective and the day-to-day sort of thought processes, communications, the little beliefs, the little thoughts that we sort of habitually create patterns where we tell ourselves the same things day in and day out, or we handle things the same way day in and day out. There's a need to integrate the bigger picture and the broader perspective, but also looking at day-to-day communications. This could be a focus or a culmination point of some sort of project involving communication. This could be the culmination point of something involving a short distance travel or a long distance travel, right? This could be something involving marketing, networking, your community, your neighbors, maybe having to get more in touch with your community instead of focusing so much more on the broader picture and on what's going on globally, focusing more of your energy and attention on what's going on around you and your immediate surroundings. This could be involving vehicles or short distance travel. I think it said short distance travel already. This could be involving vehicles, siblings, extended family members, needing to focus on, again, what's going on in your immediate surroundings a little bit more so, as opposed to that bigger picture, or integrating that bigger picture if you have been focusing too much energy on the day-to-day sort of tasks and communications and all of that as well. And the potential that you're unlocking here has to do with your belief systems, your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. This could be unlocking some sort of potential for travel for leisure and for fun and for play. You have Uranus transiting your 5th house. You're learning, you're integrating new hobbies that might be a little bit unusual, or new pastimes that might be a little bit unusual or disruptive, or seen as maybe a little bit eccentric. In trine with the sun, this could bring some sort of potential for some sort of travel to do something that you love to do, maybe going to a conference or something like that, or a meetup that has to do with some sort of hobby that you are starting to get into that might be a little bit different or outside the beaten track. With Saturn hitting your ascendant, especially right now, if you have your ascendant or sun, moon, or rising at the first 5 degrees of Capricorn, you're restructuring your whole chart, right? So this is you resetting your identity out in the world. This is you purging old patterns, old conditioning, and integrating the things that you do because you love to do it, because it's fun for you, because it's liberating, and maintaining that for the long term. That's a potential of this as well. So you're changing your beliefs about the world around you. You're, integrating these new hobbies, these things that you do because they're fun and they're liberating and they feel like freedom, and integrating those things into your personality and into the way that you interface with the world for the long term and for the long haul, because you are in this process of changing things up and shedding your old skin and rebuilding like a new persona, a new personality. It's like, okay, I just got rid of all this stuff I just purged in all these areas of my life. What am I going to build moving forward, and how can I integrate what liberates me into this new persona or this new framework for reality? All right, so Aquarius and Aquarius rising. This full moon is happening in your in your second house of finance. And so there's a need to come back into balance between relying on money from an outside source, so through debt, other people's money, joint finances, marriage, inheritance, some sort of financing that comes from the outside, and relying on your own hard work, your own resources in order to get by. And so, it could be that you need to release some sort of hold that an outside institution has on you financially in order to feel more empowered, in order to focus more of your energy on creating your own resources moving forward. This could be you intuitively coming into a new way of creating resources for yourself, or having some sort of culmination point of some sort of project you started to create more financial resources or more material resources for yourself. This is a need to come back into balance between the material and the non-material also. So you could be focusing more on the inner work, on what's going on beneath the surface beyond this realm, focusing on things that feel very empowering to you, focusing on that deep healing, that deep psychological healing that happens from the inside out, right? Focusing too much energy on the non-physical or non-attachment, and needing to sort of enjoy the simple pleasures that physical reality and, money and things that are tangible actually provide for us, because we're, physical beings in a physical reality. And with Pisces on the second house cusp, Aquarius rising, people tend to be very detached from their resources. Like, they don't care so much about it. So this is a time when you can enjoy your resources a little bit more if you've been, a little bit detached in that way, focusing more on the deep inner work, the deep healing, the deep psychological stuff. And, focusing on different things that are even research, or things that are more, or like obsessions of yours, right? Maybe you've been obsessed with something and you've been really focusing and gravitating toward that. And you need to kind of come back down to reality and ground yourself through doing something enjoyable, right? Taking that workshop, or getting a massage or something that's physical. And so that's what's going on for Aquarius. And then the energy that's being unlocked for you is, deep healing in all of the hidden emotional houses, which is something that you've been working on. So maybe it's that you've been focusing too much on that, and coming out of that space, you can sort of get out of that situation to get a new, fresh perspective on things that can create a lot of great healing. This can bring positive changes to your family, your home, your property, your roots. This can bring positive changes to joint finances, to self-empowerment. This can bring positive changes to your spiritual practices, your ability to spend time in solitude, seclusion. This could bring a really positive reset to your energy. This could bring really profound messages or ideas that come through that help you to shift something or change something, again, with your home, your family, your property. A lot of different potentials here for change and for healing, and for, just changing things up when it comes to your roots, and for healing through emotional stuff. For Pisces and for Pisces rising, this energy is happening in your first and your seventh house. So this is another sign where, especially if you have your sun, moon rising around 3 degrees, so from 0 to 5 degrees, I would say is going to be the strongest. For Pisces rising people, this is going to be a lot of energy around needing to make some sort of compromise in relationships. So focusing more on your own needs. If you've been focusing too much on the needs of other people, Pisces and Pisces rising can be very compassionate, caring, loving, and sometimes, they give so much they don't even realize that they're sort of martyring themselves. And so maybe it's a need to focus more on your interests, your needs, instead of the needs of others. Or if you've been focusing too much on your own needs and self-interest, then, it's the opposite. It's focusing more on the needs of other people. So coming back into balance, there could be a very literal compromise that you need to make in a relationship. And this could be a romantic relationship. It could be a business partnership, a close friendship, any close personal relationships, even relationships with clients, some sort of contract that needs to be renegotiated. But there's a need to come back into balance and to compromise in some sort of relationship in order to unlock the positive potential here, which has to do with relationships, right? So opening that potential, even if it's just in one relationship, can free up a lot of energy for you to develop really strong, long-lasting friendships moving forward, because that's Saturn in your 11th house. When Saturn transits the 11th, a lot of friendships can fall by the wayside, but the ones that are truly there for you, the ones that are in it for the long haul, they'll stick around, and you'll create new friendships throughout that 2.5-year period that are very long-lasting, they're very stable. When I had Saturn transiting my 11th house, that's when I made some of my best friends that, no matter, they're all over the world. There was only a few of them, right? But those friends are with me for life, right? And I know that they are. Like they're the ones that are in it for the long haul. So this is going to free up energy for you to create those kinds of friendships and to purge the friendships very easily that are not working for you anymore, that are not in alignment with your values, your beliefs, your ideas about the world, which are changing right now because Uranus is in your third house of beliefs. And so then it comes full circle, right? And so making these changes in terms of learning new skills, having these really strange, unusual, new ideas and belief systems and downloads and new information that comes to you that shocks you out of complacency, that's going to be part of the reason why you're unloading some of these old friendships, because they're not in alignment with your new values, your new belief systems, these ideas that are coming in. Your framework for your day-to-day reality is sort of changing through this shocking new information that's coming in for you. And so anyway, so this is going to unlock a lot of potential for you in terms of relationships, friendships, all of that moving forward. Okay. Well, that was Pisces. So that was all 12 signs. So thank you all so much for watching this video. If you would like to book a one-on-one personal private reading with me, you can do so at the link in the description below. And yeah, and subscribe to my video if you want to keep, or subscribe to my channel if you want to keep seeing these videos, and if you want to keep up with the weekly forecast and all the other things that I do with the tutorials and interviews. And again, if you want to do that webinar on astrocartography and relocation on September 15th, you can register now. It's $10 off. The link is in the description of the video below. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.